In 2025, Earth was overwhelmed by otherworldly monsters, and humanity faced a devastating defeat. By 2038, genetic technology created superpowered gene warriors who successfully drove the invaders away. The year 2050 marked the beginning of the gene era, where passing a test at 18 granted superpowers. Now, in 2137, a high school student named Shui stands at the most critical juncture of his life. He looks up to the holographic legends of gene warriors, aspiring to carry their immense responsibility. Shui knows that only passing the unified gene test will save him from being labeled as society's trash. He recalls the end take a mischievous turn, considering the more practical applications of a simple ability. He cheekily imagines the unique advantages such a power would grant him, finding the prospect quite appealing. Nearby, other students debate the risks, one terrified by online stories of the 1% who don't survive. His friend scoffs at the fear, focusing instead on the 99% chance of a glorious, awakened life. The nervous student can't shake his terror, knowing that a 1% chance of oblivion is still a terrifying gamble. A cocky student named Zhao Tian is called next, boasting that he'll awaken an incredible power. Shui observes calmly, hoping his own awakening will grant him a useful ability. His attention is caught by a holographic sign displaying his number. His turn is approaching. Taking a steadying breath, he prepares himself for the moment that will define his future. Just as the next student reaches for the door, the unthinkable happens. A fiery explosion erupts from the injection room, blasting the door open and sending a body flying. Shui stares in disbelief, the brutal reality of the 1% risk unfolding before his eyes. Panic spreads through the waiting students as they recognize the victim as the one who just entered. The unfortunate candidate is consumed by an uncontrolled burst of fiery energy, his body unable to contain the power. Medical staff scramble to douse the flames and administer emergency aid, a stark reminder of the injection's deadly side effects. The student's body is completely overwhelmed by the raw, untamed energy of his newly awakened power. Emergency personnel rush in, desperately trying to contain the disastrous outcome with a fire extinguisher. A grim official confirms the student's fate, noting this is the 5th fatal gene crash of the day. The students learn the tragic irony. The boy awakened a powerful flame type, only for it to destroy him. Panic finally breaks the crowd's resolve as some students decide to flee the deadly facility. Shui watches in silence as the staff unceremoniously cover the remains of the fallen candidate. The student who was previously nervous is now paralyzed by terror, wondering if he's next to die. Just as the horror sinks in, the holographic sign above the door flashes, calling the next number 25. Shui's blood runs cold as he realizes his own number has been called, forcing him to face the deadly chamber. He clenches his fist, his fear giving way to a steely resolve not to back down now. He decides that a life of mediocrity is a fate worse than death, his dreams reaching for the stars. With newfound courage, he knocks on the door and announces his presence, ready to face what's inside. A voice from within grants him entry, a holographic screen glowing in the official's hand. He steps into the sterile room, where a woman with long silver hair immediately confirms his identity. The official pulls up his file on a holographic display, explaining that a pre-injection interview is standard procedure. Her gaze is piercing and cold as she directly questions his awareness of the lethal risks involved. Shui meets her stare without flinching, affirming his willingness to accept any outcome. She presents the syringe, giving him one final opportunity to reconsider activating his genes. A flash of doubt hits him as he recalls the recent tragedy, but his resolve to not fail overpowers his fear. He pushes all hesitation aside, his eyes burning with conviction as he gives his final, unwavering consent. The official prepares the injection, instructing Shui to remove his pants. Shui reacts with surprise to the unexpected instruction. The official explains the unconventional injection method for maximum effectiveness. Shui reluctantly complies with the unusual request. Shui braces himself for the injection, a mix of anticipation and apprehension on his face. The injection is administered, a bright flash emanating from the point of contact. The official confirms the injection's success and monitors Shui's vital signs. Shui reports no immediate changes or unusual sensations. After some time, Shui still shows no signs of gene activation. The official explains that any reaction, even negative, would indicate the injection's efficacy. The horrifying possibility of a complete failure dawns on him. 30 minutes later, the monitor beeps, confirming a total lack of any reaction. Even the seasoned official is perplexed, admitting she's never encountered this situation before. The observation period concludes, and she instructs him to get up from the bed. He sits up, sensing a strange, unsettling feeling despite the apparent failure. Suddenly, his world glitches, his vision inverting as an unknown power surges within him. He lurches forward with a silent scream, reaching out blindly as the power overwhelms him. He collapses onto the bed, writhing in agony as an immense pressure builds in his head. His face contorts in a silent, agonizing scream as the internal pressure becomes unbearable. The official's analysis reveals his vitals are critical, with his body temperature and heart rate soaring chaotically. He reaches out desperately, his body convulsing as the unknown power tears through him. His vision blurs, a single terrifying thought echoing in his mind. This is how he dies. His consciousness drifts into a black void, feeling weightless as he questions his own demise. He finds himself as a small figure floating within a colossal, serene blue energy being. Snapping back to a semblance of reality, he stares in awe at the strange new world before him. He stands before a giant, ethereal version of himself, questioning what this cosmic being could be. His attention is drawn to 14 glowing points of light, forming a constellation on the entity's chest. Back in the physical world, the official initiates an emergency procedure to save his life. A powerful jolt courses through his body as the medical staff attempt to stabilize his failing system. The official notes that the shock treatment has successfully restored his vital signs, pulling him back from the brink. Shui awakens, disoriented and clutching his chest, trying to process his near-death experience. The official reveals a shocking discovery on her holographic display. He's activated 14 mysterious gene points. He erupts with joy, believing he's hit the genetic jackpot with such a rare and numerous activation. His celebration is cut short when he learns his power falls under the less-than-glamorous wisdom type. The official prepares to finalize his results, informing him this last test will be permanently recorded in the system. Now dressed, he voices his concern, fearing a future stuck in a boring office job instead of on the battlefield. She dismisses his complaints with an icy stare, telling him the data is clear and final. Undeterred, he presses on, eagerly asking what specific ability he has gained from this awakening. She coolly explains that activating gene points is no guarantee of a usable power, especially for the enigmatic, mysterious type. A skeptical smirk crosses his face, unconvinced by her vague and dismissive explanation. The official offers Shui her name card. She suggests he contact her about Huaxia Gene Evolution University. Shui considers the offer, intrigued. He reads the card, noting her title and affiliation. Shui is surprised by the official's youthful appearance and high rank. He prepares to leave, thanking the official. Shui reaches for the door handle. The official stops him with a sudden call. Shui turns back, questioning her intent. She gives him a cryptic warning about a mysterious organization. She questions his knowledge of a shadowy organization called Hope Redemption. Shui racks his brain, vaguely recalling the infamous name from his studies. The official explains they are traitors who sided with the otherworldly invaders against humanity. This shadowy group is known for its ruthless and decisive methods. Their betrayal is the very reason humanity struggled to gain an advantage in the last Great War. She reveals the organization is now kidnapping gifted students for sinister experiments. A cold sweat breaks out on Shui's face as he realizes his 14 gene points make him a prime target. He leaves the testing facility, the weight of this new danger settling upon him. He wonders if his unknown ability will be enough to protect him from this looming threat. His mind flashes back to the ethereal being, connecting the 14 points of light to his newfound power. He clutches his throbbing head, the phantom vision still haunting him as he recovers from the injection's after effects. A familiar voice cuts through his thoughts, and he turns to see who called his name. His face lights up with a wide grin as he recognizes his two best friends approaching. His buddies, Chungmo and Tang Ting, immediately grill him for the details on his gene point activation. Tang Ting playfully mocks another friend for activating 11 points concentrated in his stomach, predicting a future of competitive eating. Chungmo despairs over his own results, comically weeping that his powers are destined for nothing more than a massive appetite. Tang Ting offers a wild theory, suggesting Chungmo could eat his way to the highest evolutionary rank. Fed up with the teasing, Chungmo's frustration boils over and he glares at his friend. Chungmo gets his revenge, trapping Tang Ting in a headlock while exposing his friend's own embarrassing power focused on hand speed. With his friend subdued, Chungmo shifts his focus back to Shui, demanding to know his results. Shui calmly reveals he activated an astonishing 14 gene points. His friend's jaws drop in complete shock at the unbelievable number. Chungmo's awe turns to adoration as he declares Xu Tui a prodigy, vowing to follow him. Xu Tui interrupts the praise to clarify that all his activated points are the wisdom type. The celebratory mood shatters as his friends stare, dumbfounded by this disappointing revelation. Chungmo voices his concern, noting the notorious difficulty wisdom types face in finding a good career. Tang Ting unhelpfully recalls a relative with the same power who ended up a host after a failed career as a monk. Xu Tui glares at his friend, unimpressed by the suggestion that he should join a monastery. He explains that his options are limited to research, likely restricting him to the Gene Evolution University. To make matters worse, he admits that due to their mysterious nature, he has no idea what his actual ability is. Xu Tui considers contacting Professor An for guidance. Chungmo enthusiastically suggests a celebratory buffet. Xu Tui declines, feigning a headache to excuse himself. Chungmo and Tang Ting express concern for Xu Tui's well-being. News reports highlight missing students and a celebrity scandal. Xu Tui sees a disturbing news report about Hope Redemption. Xu Tui experiences a sudden sharp headache. He realizes the headache might be related to his new abilities. Xu Tui's new power activates, scanning his surroundings. His enhanced perception reveals a hidden scene. Xu Tui's new power gives him an X-ray view of the restaurant. He can perceive the layout and occupants with surprising clarity. His vision penetrates walls, revealing the bustling kitchen. The details become less clear at greater distances. Xu Tui focuses his mind, attempting to refine his new ability. He tries to zoom in on a specific object, but struggles. He realizes the limits of his current perception. Xu Tui decides to continue experimenting with his power. He walks away from the restaurant, deep in thought. A strange premonition washes over him. Xu Tui walks down a futuristic city street, a look of concern on his face. His surroundings blur as he senses something amiss. He glances back, suspecting he's being followed. Hiding behind a wall, a sinister figure confirms Xu Tui's suspicions. The city's holographic advertisements and futuristic architecture create a vibrant backdrop. Xu Tui continues walking, seemingly unaware of the figures trailing him. He realizes he's being followed by 3 individuals. The 3 followers maintain their distance, studying Xu Tui's movements. Xu Tui contemplates his options, realizing the danger of alerting his pursuers. He remembers something that might help him. He slips the official's card into his pocket, weighing his options for staying safe. Meanwhile, at the Jincheng government office, a high-level meeting is underway. A decorated colonel, Liu Tianhu, delivers a stern warning about maintaining discipline. He sits at the head of a holographic table, promising to personally handle any troublemakers. Suddenly, Professor An looks up from her device, her expression showing she has urgent business. She rises from her seat, boldly interrupting the colonel's authoritative speech. Professor An confronts Director Zhou, revealing Xu Tui has sent a distress signal and questioning if the director's men are responsible. The colonel glares at the director, demanding to know what's going on with this student. Director Zhou calmly explains that the stalkers are his own SWAT team, assigned to protect Xu Tui. Professor An remains skeptical, questioning the need for a 3-man detail on a single wisdom-type student. Director Zhou reveals the extra presence is due to their plan. Professor An is shocked to hear there are 3 individuals involved. Director Zhou clarifies he only dispatched 2 agents, raising suspicion. Professor An deduces the 3rd person is likely from Hope Redemption. She demands Director Zhou take action against the unknown threat. Director Zhou attempts to justify maintaining the current security detail. Professor An questions Director Zhou's inaction regarding the potential threat. Jin Qiang suggests using Xu Tui as bait to lure out Hope Redemption. Professor An is furious at the idea of using a student as bait. The colonel reveals he authorized the risky plan. The colonel defends his decision, arguing the plan is necessary to capture the traitors from Hope Redemption. Professor An furiously objects, refusing to let them use a student with 14 activated gene points as bait. He coldly dismisses her concerns, stating that sacrificing 1 student is a worthy trade to save thousands. She clenches her fist in disbelief as he cites wartime regulations to justify his ruthless calculus. Disgusted by their decision, Professor An announces she is leaving the meeting immediately. The colonel's eye flashes red as he orders an officer to stop her from interfering with the operation. An officer named Qiu Qiang intercepts her, warning that her actions could jeopardize the mission and lead to severe consequences. She reluctantly agrees to stay but makes it clear she won't guarantee Xu Tui's cooperation. The colonel then instructs Qiu Qiang to send a message to reassure the boy, but to keep him in the dark about the trap. As she prepares the message, Professor An can only hope that Shu Tui is clever enough to survive what's coming. Shu Tui's phone finally buzzes with a new message, a reply he's been desperately waiting for. He reads the text from Professor An, confirming 2 of his followers are SWAT agents assigned to protect him. The message also warns that the 3rd follower is an unknown threat, making Shu Tui question the agent's inaction. A horrifying realization dawns on him. He's being used as bait and must take matters into his own hands. He formulates a plan on the spot and confidently walks into a nearby tea shop. A cheerful employee greets him at the counter, completely unaware of the danger lurking outside. He takes a seat with a clear view of the street, keeping a watchful eye on his surroundings. He places a bizarre order for a bubble tea made with boiling hot water, perplexing the staff. With the scalding drink in hand, he thanks the employee, his plan now in motion. He gives a knowing wink as he exits the shop, ready to turn the tables on his pursuers. Shu Tui walks away from the tea shop, his pursuers in sight. One of the followers bids him a seemingly friendly farewell. The follower reveals a more menacing demeanor. Shu Tui senses the danger and prepares for a confrontation. He casually sips his hot tea, a plan forming in his mind. Shu Tui accelerates, initiating his counterattack. He swiftly turns and throws the scalding tea. The follower reacts in pain as the hot liquid makes contact. The follower recoils, clutching his face in agony. Shu Tui delivers a powerful kick, taking advantage of the distraction. The 3rd follower lunges forward, revealing his sinister plan to capture Shu Tui by any means necessary. Shu Tui looks up in alarm as the attacker descends upon him like a shadow. Just in time, one of the civilians scramble for safety, desperate to escape the dangerous confrontation. The SWAT agents express their frustration, realizing their carefully laid trap has just been sprung prematurely. The 2 SWAT agents stare down the traitor, realizing their plan has gone completely sideways. The traitor smirks with contempt, disappointed by the small number of agents sent to challenge him. Deciding to ignore the taunts, the remaining agent signals his partner to attack and capture their target. The agents charge forward in a pincer attack, but the traitor proves to be a formidable opponent. Shu Tui watches in shock, realizing the traitor is far more powerful than he could have imagined. The traitor's speed is overwhelming, allowing him to land a powerful, staggering punch on one agent. Panic sets in as Shu Tui realizes the traitor is easily dispatching his protectors to get to him. Just as he panics, a sharp, debilitating pain erupts in his head. His powers flots must be the dormant genes yet to be unlocked. A sudden epiphany strikes him as he realizes his wisdom-type power is a form of internal body mapping. He observes the flow of energy within the ethereal form, wondering if he can manipulate it to his will. With newfound resolve, he reaches out, determined to control the energy flowing within him. He focuses his will, and a surge of power responds, flowing through his ethereal counterpart. The raw energy is overwhelming, causing him immense pain as he struggles to contain it within his body. Against all odds, his effort causes a new, previously dormant gene point to ignite with brilliant light. A brilliant flash of light signals the successful activation of a brand new gene point. Back in the real world, the traitor lands a brutal blow, sending a SWAT agent reeling. A cruel smirk plays on his lips as he relishes the one-sided beatdown. He effortlessly dodges the other agent's attack, moving with blinding speed. The traitor easily overpowers his second opponent, mocking the agent's weakness. With both protectors down, he complains that the fight was a waste of his strength. He turns his attention to Shu Tui, telling the boy to give up all hope. The villain looms over his target, declaring that no one is coming to the rescue. He reaches down to capture Shu Tui, his face twisting into a sinister, shadowy grin. But the traitor's confidence falters as he sees a defiant, unexpected fire ignite in Shu Tui's eyes. Shu Tui unleashes a devastating kick, catching the traitor completely off guard. The villain roars in agony, his overconfidence shattered by the sudden powerful strike. The force of the blow sends the Hope Redemption member flying across the street. He lands with a bone-jarring impact, sprawled out and defeated on the pavement. The SWAT agents stare in disbelief, questioning how a wisdom type could possess such strength before deciding to capture him. Lying on the ground, the traitor glares up, utterly humiliated by his unexpected defeat. The agents waste no time, pinning the downed villain and placing him under arrest. Meanwhile, back at the command center, the high-ranking officials continue to monitor the operation. Professor An grows anxious, wondering about Shu Tui's fate since he hasn't responded to her message. Her colleague receives an urgent call, his expression turning serious as he's interrupted mid-meeting. An urgent call interrupts the meeting, startling an official. The colonel listens intently, demanding to know what's happening. The official relays news about Shu Tui, causing concern. The colonel explodes with anger, questioning their competence. The official explains Shu Tui's unexpected actions and their positive outcome. The colonel realizes the plan has backfired, revealing a critical detail. Professor Ann demands answers, suspecting a leak. Professor Ann suggests reviewing her message for clues. The colonel contemplates the situation, his expression grim. The colonel orders an investigation and assigns a hefty punishment. The scene shifts to Jin City's SWAT office, a towering, futuristic structure. The investigation into the third follower reveals his identity and a peculiar nickname. The officials discuss the stalker's high rank within Hope Redemption and its implications. They speculate on why the SWAT agents were easily overpowered by the traitor. The officials inquire about Shu Tui's current state and whereabouts. Shu Tui's post-incident hunger leads to a surprising display of appetite. Shu Tui reflects on the physical toll of using his newfound ability. He worries about the potential consequences of revealing his powers. A chibi-style explanation of gene awakening begins. The chibi official details the requirements for gene liberation and the injection process. A chibi Shu Tui flexes, surrounded by glowing gene points, showcasing the concept of gene awakening. Chibi Shu Tui demonstrates his new perception, sensing the layout and activity inside the restaurant. A chibi official explains that Shu Tui's perception is a standard projection, not a special ability. Shu Tui recounts receiving a text from his teacher, raising suspicions about the third follower. Shu Tui explains his actions to an official, highlighting his bravery in the face of danger. An official praises Shu Tui's performance and potential, while another suspects a leaked text. Shu Tui politely inquires about when he can leave, eager to return home after the ordeal. An official offers Shu Tui a reward and a non-disclosure agreement for his cooperation. Shu Tui contemplates the reward, realizing its significance despite not raising his citizen rank. Director Zhou assures Shu Tui the reward is substantial, emphasizing its value. Shu Tui questions if he'll be used as bait again. He reaches for the door, ready to leave. An official explains the dangers faced by awakened individuals. The official reveals other students are also under protection. Another official comments on the situation. Shu Tui decides to end the combination as he realizes he must seize control of his own destiny. His mind is set on a single, urgent goal, to become stronger and to do it quickly. Meanwhile, in a high-tech Special Forces office, a new operation is quietly unfolding. A massive screen fills with cascading data, analyzing the recent events surrounding the student. The system flags Shu Tui's weird changes, marking him for a future follow-up plan. With no human input, an automated protocol initiates a mysterious Kodai plan. 3 days later, exciting news arrives at Shu Tui's home in the form of an enrollment letter. His mother celebrates wildly, revealing he's been accepted into the prestigious Huaxia Gene Evolution University. Shu Tui, however, remains calm, finding his mother's shock amusingly predictable. He casually eats a meal, seemingly more focused on refueling than his academic achievement. Shu Tui's mom excitedly prepares to share his university acceptance news. Shu Tui reflects on his rigorous training and its physical toll. A close-up on Shu Tui's eye hints at his internal struggle. He notes the uneven effects of his training on his body. He realizes the challenges of getting stronger and anticipates university studies. Shu Tui's father interrupts his thoughts, addressing him directly. His father offers advice based on personal experience. Shu Tui tries to clarify a misunderstanding with his parents. His parents present him with a gift for university. The gift is revealed to be energy supplements for his demanding studies. Shu Tui is stunned to find a box of rare E-rank energy refill medicine. An explanation reveals these supplements are restricted, with the E-rank version costing 50 times more than the standard F-rank. He realizes the gift's true value, as his father had to use his special authority to acquire it. His father reveals he saved up credits for years, while his mother warns him to stay away from the ruthless Hope Redemption. Touched by their sacrifice, Shu Tui promises his parents he will remember their words and stay safe. Later that night, the city sleeps, but Shu Tui's journey is just beginning. Back in his room, he sits on his bed, preparing to meditate and explore his newfound abilities. He closes his eyes, focusing his mind and turning his attention inward. His consciousness enters the cosmic void, his ethereal form crackling with energy under the constellation of his gene points. With a surge of determination, he opens his eyes, ready to unlock his true potential. He focuses his will, channeling a torrent of energy through his ethereal legs. The immense power builds in his physical body, causing him excruciating pain as it concentrates in a single point. Within the void, the concentrated energy finally splits, forging a new path. Two new gene points ignite on his legs, shining with the brilliance of his successful awakening. Back in reality, he gasps for air, the intense effort leaving him completely drained. He collapses onto his bed, exhausted but exhilarated by his success in activating two genes at once. The mental strain leaves him with a splitting headache, realizing the energy supplement can't restore his spirit. He understands that to continue this rapid growth, he must find a way to strengthen his mental fortitude. A sudden call from his mother breaks his concentration, pulling him from his thoughts. He springs from his bed with newfound agility, eager to see what she wants. He lands with a powerful impact, bracing himself against the floor with a grimace. The force of his jump sends him tumbling over furniture, creating a loud crash that alerts his mother. He quickly recovers, realizing with a jolt of excitement that his left leg's power has significantly increased. His concerned parents burst into the room, fearing the worst after hearing the commotion. Their worry instantly turns to wide-eyed shock as they get a good look at their son. Shui stands confidently, revealing a surprisingly muscular physique and casually announcing his hunger. His parents marvel at his transformation, playfully poking at the muscles that have replaced his once skinny frame. He reflects on his training, realizing that activating one gene point can unexpectedly enhance other parts of his body. Deciding to confirm his theory, he prepares a simple test to gauge his new capabilities. He effortlessly crushes a metal can, a clear demonstration of his dramatically improved physical strength. He acknowledges his increased finger strength, but knows power alone isn't enough for precision. His attempt to throw playing cards fails miserably, proving he lacks the necessary control. His attention shifts to a bowl of soybeans, sparking a new and better idea for a projectile. He reasons that unlike flimsy cards, the dense soybeans will make for a much more stable and effective weapon. With a powerful kick, he launches a single soybean at the crushed can with blinding speed. The tiny soybean impacts the can with explosive force, completely shattering the metal. He's stunned by the sheer destructive power, imagining the lethal potential of a metal projectile. A confident smile spreads across his face, knowing he now has a hidden ace for self-defense. The scene changes to a massive, futuristic station where countless students gather to depart for university. Amidst a shower of confetti, the students wave farewell to their city, ready to start their new lives. Chang's generous offer to join a frontline unit after graduation. The mood darkens as Chung Mo recalls the grim reality, a 20% death rate for frontline soldiers. Shui remains optimistic, reminding his friend that Tang Ting's speed and strength make him a natural for combat. A final boarding call echoes across the massive transport hub, urging all students to get on board. With a final wave, Shui says goodbye to his parents, who watch him leave for his new life. Inside the transport vehicle, the students settle in, each lost in their own thoughts about the future. Chung Mo excitedly declares his new mission is to find a girlfriend, much to Shui's unamused indifference. A fellow student recognizes Chung Mo, mocking his big eater reputation and his ban from city cafeterias. The gossip spreads as another student scoffs at Chung Mo's romantic ambitions, sarcastically calling him a campus hunk. A silver-haired student turns to confront the gossiper, his expression hardening with irritation. Mingxuan coldly tells the student to be quiet, questioning his need to constantly run his mouth. The gossiper smirks back, seeing no issue with simply speaking the truth about their classmate. The tension escalates as the two square up, ready to throw down over the insults. A sharp voice cuts through the confrontation, demanding to know what's going on. An official flanked by armed guards appears, ordering them to take their fight elsewhere if they insist on brawling. A friend intervenes, holding Mingxuan back and advising him not to cause trouble with a teacher present. Mingxuan shoots a final icy glare at the gossiper, warning him to show some basic respect in the future. Mingxuan issues a stern warning to the other students. An official introduces himself as Cha Yifeng, the trip's leader. Cha Yifeng hints at potential dangers during the journey. Shui is advised to be cautious and observe his surroundings. The top student Tongqi is introduced, highlighting his impressive gene activation. Shui learns about Tongqi's protected status due to his potential. The genius girl Gongling is introduced, capturing Chung Mo's attention. Chung Mo's reaction to Gongling draws Shui's amusement. Gongling disembarks, her elegant boots clicking on the floor. Anne's arrival surprises Shui and Chung Mo. The students are captivated as Professor Anne makes her way through the vehicle, her presence commanding attention. She introduces herself as an Xiao Shui, the escort teacher, and sets clear expectations for discipline on the journey. Shu Tui is taken aback, realizing the high-ranking official from his gene test is now his chaperone. A massive convoy of transport snakes through a rugged mountain pass, a testament to the scale of the operation. In a mobile command center, an officer confirms all vehicles are on the move with communication jammers active. The colonel explains that this time of year is prime hunting season for traitorous groups looking to kidnap gifted students. An aide details their complex strategy, a randomized route and a scattered convoy to make finding the real targets nearly impossible. The colonel's eyes glow with intensity as he warns that Vehicle 3 is the highest priority, and failure is not an option. A grim realization dawns on Shu Tui. He's in a vehicle full of top-tier students painting a massive target on their backs. He gazes out the window, connecting the dots as he realizes their strange route is a deliberate attempt to outmaneuver their unseen enemies. The transport speeds through a bizarre, alien-like forest, a clear sign of the untamed world outside the city. A silver-haired student gazes out the window, wistfully wondering if he'll ever get to explore the wild countryside. An official's voice crackles over the intercom, announcing their approach to the first resupply point. He issues a stern warning. They have only 3 minutes for the break, and straying too far means getting shot. The convoy pulls up to a massive, heavily fortified structure designated as Supply Point Number 1. Inside the walls, the students disembark under the watchful eyes of patrolling jets and armed guards. The sheer scale of the military presence leaves the students completely stunned and intimidated. A cold sweat drips down Shu Tui's face as he understands the true gravity of armed soldiers guard the area, warning that it is extremely dangerous. A man in a red jacket orders everyone to quickly return to their vehicles after the break. Shu Tui contemplates the strategic importance of even mundane locations. He notices something unexpected. His curiosity piqued. Shu Tui investigates the source of his suspicion. He questions the unusual presence in the restroom. Shu Tui uses his newfound ability to investigate further. He identifies the ability he's using as telepathy. Shu Tui reacts to a surprising mental contact. He recognizes the voice in his head. Professor Cha reacts with urgency. Shu Tui questions the professor's strange behavior. The guards question Shu Tui, repeating his bizarre claim about the nervous teacher. He clarifies that the professor didn't eat anything, but merely held something in his mouth. His explanation is met with roaring laughter from the 2 guards who find the story absurd. They turn the tables, asking why he was spying on his teacher in the first place. With time running out, Shu Tui abandons the conversation and sprints for the transport. He races against the final boarding call with Professor Cha watching him approach. The professor greets him with sarcasm, but Shu Tui fires back a witty retort. Shu Tui boldly confronts the professor, directly asking what he was eating in the restroom. The question sends Professor Cha into a panicked rage, who vehemently denies the accusation. With a knowing smile, Shu Tui dismisses the topic, casually asking about the base's canteen. Shu Tui returns to his seat, apologizing to his friends for the delay. His mind races with suspicion, convinced that Professor Cha is hiding something sinister. The massive convoy continues its journey, winding through the remote mountain pass. Chungmo offers him a snack, but Shu Tui's attention is fixed on the professor sitting alone. Professor Cha grinds his teeth, his expression a mixture of anger and anxiety. A sudden realization hits Shu Tui. The professor's 2 front teeth are definitely not normal dentures. He considers alerting the guards but stops himself, knowing he lacks proof and could tip off his target. Desperate for a solution, he remembers there's one person on board he can trust. His gaze lands on Professor An, his only hope for exposing the potential threat. He confidently approaches Professor An, asking to sit beside her and catching the other students by surprise. Shu Tui slides in next to Professor An, wanting to discuss something confidential. Chungmo expresses gratitude for Professor An's willingness to listen. Other students react with surprise and amusement at Shu Tui's boldness. Professor An encourages Shu Tui to share his concerns. Shu Tui shows Professor An a message about Professor Cha's suspicious dentures. Professor An reads the message, her eyes glow with an intense purple light as she focuses her power on the stunned professor. With a single decisive move, she sends Professor Cha flying down the aisle of the transport. The sudden commotion causes the armed guards to raise their weapons, demanding everyone freeze. Professor An silences them with a single terrifying glare, ordering them to stand down immediately. The intimidated guards quickly lower their weapons, sweating nervously under her authoritative gaze. She pins the struggling Professor Cha to the floor as he furiously questions her actions and warns of dire consequences. With the traitor subdued, she calmly instructs Shui to retrieve the suspicious teeth from his mouth. Shui approaches the pinned professor, preparing to extract the hidden object from the resisting man. He successfully removes one of the false teeth, revealing its strange, non-organic nature. Shui presents the object to Professor An, confirming his suspicions and exposing the hidden device. Professor An reveals the tooth is a sophisticated communication device. She demands to know who Professor Cha was contacting. Professor Cha laughs, admitting his surprise at being discovered. He declares it's too late for them to escape his trap. At the command center, the colonel believes they are safe as they leave the mountains. An urgent report comes in about Vehicle 3 going rogue. Another report requests a direct line to the commander about Vehicle 3. Professor An realizes their route has been compromised. The colonel orders an immediate energy blast erupts from the ground. The colonel yells a warning, his face etched with concern. An explosion rocks the convoy, sending debris flying. Shui and his friends react to the sudden chaos, seeking safety. Mingxuan realizes the situation is far more intense than advertised. Professor An directs the students to stay low and avoid running around. A commanding officer orders the deployment of countermeasures and interception of enemy fire. Ground troops engage in a fierce exchange of fire with the attackers. Explosions rock the area as the battle intensifies. Aerial attackers swoop down, engaging the convoy's defenses. Students return fire, defending their position against the unexpected assault. An attacker is hit, falling from the sky. Mingxuan observes the attackers, noting their professional demeanor. A wider view reveals the scale of the attack and the military's response. Reinforcements are on their way, arriving in 3 minutes. A powerful figure lands amidst the chaos, ready to take charge. He roars, urging everyone to get off the ground and fight. Soldiers leap over defensive spikes, engaging the enemy. Students react with fear as a powerful presence is sensed. Surprise attack, caught off guard. Soldiers open fire, aiming at a specific target. A masked figure unleashes a flurry of energized blade strikes. Despite careful planning, Vehicle 3 is the primary target of the ambush. A powerful figure launches into action, propelled by a surge of energy. The powerful figure intercepts the masked attacker, ready to engage. The powerful figure unleashes a furious attack, intent on eliminating the threat. The masked attacker attempts to defend against the overwhelming assault. A powerful impact creates a blinding flash of energy, obscuring the outcome. A powerful figure continues their relentless pursuit through the forest. The pursuer expresses frustration at their opponent's inability. Powerful figure. The convoy celebrates a moment of respite from the attack. Students scramble to safety, guided by a commanding figure. A powerful individual deflects incoming projectiles with a glowing shield. A silver-haired figure unleashes a devastating attack from the nearby forest. A group of imposing figures emerges from the forest, ready to join the fray. Soldiers fire heavy weaponry, trying to hold back the advancing figures. Several wolf-like creatures are bombarded from above, their advance halted. A large, powerful tiger-like creature charges forward, undeterred by the attacks. Soldiers are overwhelmed by the creatures, calling for help amidst the chaos. A silver-haired student expresses concern as the last line of defense is breached. A figure gloats over the unfolding situation, seemingly pleased with the chaos. A silver-haired student stares intently, a serious expression on her face. The silver-haired student unleashes a powerful attack, silencing her opponent. Professor An confidently assures the students of their safety with her presence. A group of powerful individuals stands ready to defend against monstrous creatures. Professor An declares their resolve as the last line of defense. A large, menacing creature lunges towards soldiers, creating a whirlwind of danger. A shadowy figure descends upon a beast, ready to strike from above. A powerful individual unleashes a forceful attack against a creature. A student fights off multiple creatures, questioning the delayed reinforcements. Soldiers charge into battle, focusing their efforts on Vehicle 3. Professor An confronts the creatures, questioning the effectiveness of shouting. A student recognizes Professor An's affiliation with the mysterious department. Professor An prepares her counterattack, calmly levitating several glowing orbs with purple energy. Two massive beasts, a tiger and a wolf, lunge towards her with ferocious intent. She unleashes her projectiles, sending the energized orbs hurtling towards the monstrous creatures. A whirlwind of purple energy erupts around her, striking down the surrounding pack of smaller beasts. The students can only stare in stunned silence, completely blown away by her incredible display of power. Her overwhelming aura forces the remaining creatures to back away, their courage completely broken. Suddenly, a humanoid tiger creature appears, holding a student hostage and taunting the professor. Without a moment's hesitation, she rockets forward, a blur of motion aimed at the new threat. Her powerful strike sends the creature crashing to the ground, the impact shaking the battlefield. Looking down at her defeated foe, she confidently challenges him, making it clear there is no escape. The tiger-like creature leaps from the damaged vehicle, launching projectiles. Frustrated, the creature questions the delayed support. Purple energy streaks through the air, signaling an incoming attack. A silver-haired individual focuses intently, preparing to act. A pink energy shield deflects incoming projectiles. The silver-haired individual unleashes a powerful energy blast. More purple energy streaks across the scene, intensifying the conflict. The silver-haired individual continues their powerful assault. The tiger creature recoils, impacted by the attack. The creature looks up, assessing the situation. Professor Anne's expression shifts to alarm as she senses a new threat approaching from an unexpected direction. Her eyes turn to the sky where a strange vortex has suddenly formed within the clouds. A flock of massive predatory birds descends from the swirling portal, initiating a terrifying aerial assault. The soldiers on the ground scramble to form a shield wall, bracing for the attack from above. Just as they prepare for the sky, a new wave of ferocious beasts charges their position on the ground. A soldier finds himself locked in a desperate struggle with a snarling wolf, shouting a warning to his comrades. Another warrior leaps into the fray, attempting to fend off a hulking bear-like monster. His heroic effort is cut short as a shadowy figure sends him flying with a single devastating kick. The defensive line crumbles under the relentless assault, with desperate cries for help echoing across the battlefield. Amidst the chaos, He Mingxuan steps up, rallying the terrified students to form a defensive circle around him. A student screams for help as a monstrous wolf lunges towards a fallen classmate. The beast is suddenly knocked aside, saving the girl and stunning a nearby student. Shu Tui reveals a small steel ball, a secret weapon he'd prepared just in case. With a flick of his finger, he launches the projectile with blinding speed. The rescued girl stares in wide-eyed disbelief at her sudden salvation. The steel ball finds its mark, piercing the wolf's head and stopping it cold. The humanoid tiger leader turns, perplexed by the unexpected interference. He sees his fallen subordinate and realizes one of the students is fighting back. The tiger creature's confusion quickly turns to incandescent rage. It charges forward with murderous intent, targeting Shu Tui for daring to defy it. The tiger creature lunges at Shu Tui with ferocious speed. A soldier bravely intercepts the creature with a shield. The tiger creature easily overpowers the soldier's defense. The soldier is sent flying by the creature's brutal strength. The tiger creature roars in frustration and pain. Shu Tui prepares to launch another attack. He flicks another steel ball projectile. The projectile strikes the tiger creature, causing it to stumble. The creature lands heavily, weakened by the unexpected attack. The creature glares at Shu Tui, enraged by the student's defiance. Shu Tui is shocked by the creature's incredible durability, realizing his attack wasn't enough. He understands his current strategy won't work, and quickly decides to switch tactics. The enraged beast charges forward, determined to stop him from attacking again. Suddenly, mysterious green vines burst from the earth, intercepting the creature's path. The vines wrap around the monster, trapping it in midair and halting its furious assault. Gongling reveals herself as the source of the power, creating a crucial opening for Shu Tui. He seizes the opportunity, launching another projectile at the immobilized foe. The creature scoffs, believing Shu Tui's aim is off and the attack is a complete failure. But Shu Tui grits his teeth, focusing all his will on a long-distance shot he's never attempted before. The projectile soars through the air, aimed not at the creature, but at a far more critical target. The tiger creature reacts with a primal roar of frustration. A hidden attacker takes aim, preparing to strike from the shadows. Professor Anne deploys a protective barrier, shielding herself from danger. The tiger creature urges his allies to press their attack relentlessly. A shadowy figure unleashes a powerful dark energy attack. Professor Anne retaliates with a swift and forceful counterstrike. The hidden attackers react to the sudden shift in the battle. An incoming attack. A bear-like creature roars, seemingly struck by something. The silver-haired student lands, having launched projectiles at the creature. A lion-like creature charges through the chaos, dodging attacks. A silver-haired woman unleashes a powerful glowing energy. Several bird-like creatures are struck by projectiles from above. Aircraft fire upon the advancing creatures below. Masked figures arrive, seemingly pleased with the ongoing chaos. A figure expresses frustration at the perceived weakness of an opponent. The silver-haired leader prepares to face the masked figures. The masked leader orders his squad to execute an emergency evacuation plan. Before they can move, one of the masked figures is instantly vaporized by an unseen attack. The ground erupts in a massive explosion, sending a shockwave across the battlefield. Caught in the blast, Professor An is sent reeling through the air, seemingly unconscious. Mingxuan watches in horror as she plummets from the sky, completely helpless. He shouts her name in alarm, his panic driving him to act without hesitation. With a powerful leap, he soars into the air to intercept her fall. He catches her just in time, landing safely with the professor in his arms. Looking down at her, he breathes a sigh of relief, thankful he was able to save her. Nearby, a cloud of dust settles, revealing a powerful enemy who curses their failed attack. The silver-haired commander condemns the enemy's cowardly tactics. He prioritizes securing the area and rescuing students over pursuit. The commander reflects on the mission's unexpected turn of events. He acknowledges the deviation from their original plan. A medical device scans an injured individual. A wounded student reacts to the medical treatment. Mingxuan checks on the injured student. The student inquires about the enemy and the outcome of the battle. Mingxuan relays information about the enemy's escape and reinforcements. The student expresses relief at surviving the ordeal and learns about casualties. The recovering student worries about Professor An, remembering she was trapped by enemy fire. Mingxuan explains she single-handedly turned the tide of the battle before an assistant interrupts. The assistant urgently informs Mingxuan that the now-conscious Professor An has summoned him. In a sterile medical room, Professor An sits up in bed, quietly recovering from the ordeal. Mingxuan arrives at her bedside, accompanied by the assistant who announces his presence. Without opening her eyes, the professor asks if he was the one who caught her as she fell. He confirms with a gentle smile, admitting he acted purely on instinct to prevent her from hitting the ground. Her eyes open as she poses a more personal question about who tended to her injuries. Mingxuan becomes flustered, but the assistant quickly clarifies that she was the one who cleaned and changed the professor's clothes. Professor An requests their help to get up, revealing she has been summoned by the commander. Mingxuan checks on Professor An, concerned about her well-being. Zhu Tui is startled to learn Professor An wants to speak with him. Professor Cha, restrained and injured, endures interrogation. The colonel questions the captured Professor Cha about accomplices. Professor An enters, and the colonel inquires about her health. Professor An assures everyone she's fine and asks for the investigation results. The colonel explains the traitor's preparedness and lack of useful intel. Professor An asks about the plan for the captured traitor. The colonel reveals the captured device's advanced technology. Shu Tui questions how the device's technology could be so advanced. Professor Cha laughs defiantly, denying all accusations and vowing to make Shu Tui pay for his interference. Shu Tui and Gongling watch with concern, wondering how they'll get the truth from the uncooperative traitor. Professor An confirms with the colonel that they are under emergency wartime regulations, giving them more authority. Citing the ongoing threat, she recommends a high-intensity interrogation to extract critical information. The colonel agrees, authorizing the use of unconventional methods to break the captured spy. Professor Cha's bravado shatters as he realizes his legal rights are now irrelevant. Terrified, he suddenly offers to cooperate, promising to reveal everything he knows. Professor An coldly informs him it's too late, as his information is now useless and his fate is sealed. He pleads for mercy as she prepares to deliver a final, decisive judgment. Her eyes glow with cold fury as she reveals her absolute contempt for traitors. Professor Cha is left completely broken by the intense interrogation, his defiance shattered. The colonel steps forward, drawing a blade to deliver the final, decisive judgment. Shu Tui and Gongling watch the grim proceedings, their expressions a mix of shock and resolve. The colonel dictates the official report, creating a cover story for the traitor's demise. An official confirms the fabricated report as Shu Tui listens intently, now a witness to military justice. The commander then turns his full attention to Shu Tui, addressing him by name for the first time. He praises Shu Tui's exceptional talent, acknowledging his crucial role in uncovering two separate threats. Shu Tui humbly accepts the praise, though he's clearly taken aback by the high-level recognition. Later that night, military transports patrol the skies above the students' temporary encampment. Walking through the camp, Shu Tui questions Professor An about the necessity of their earlier brutal methods. Professor An explains that in the real world, villains are often masters at twisting the rules to their advantage. She then poses a question to Shu Tui and Gongling about why the commander specifically summoned her. She reveals her presence as a university professor provided the commander with the political cover he needed to act decisively. Shui and Gongling are stunned, realizing the commander had orchestrated the entire interrogation from the beginning. Professor An warns them that the day's events were merely an appetizer for the dangers that lie ahead. She stresses that only through relentless effort will they have a chance to survive in the brutal gene age. As they walk through the heavily guarded encampment, she imparts their first and most important lesson: self-preservation. The next day, massive aerial transports escort the student convoy across a desolate, rocky landscape. Gongling notes that with the new air support, the rebels wouldn't dare to attack them now. An injured student on a stretcher recalls the previous day's chaos, awestruck by the power of the enemy who nearly wiped them out. Professor An explains the enemy was a powerful B-class mutant who used the terrain to his advantage. Gongling reflects on her own plant-based powers, noting their situational limitations during the fight. Shui, ever curious, boldly asks Professor An about her own power level. She reveals she's currently a C-class mutant, a surprisingly low rank for her demonstrated power. Shui is stunned, wondering how a C-class mutant could hold such a high position at the university. The professor clarifies that different university departments have varying power requirements, with special abilities sometimes trumping raw rank. Intrigued, Gongling eagerly asks about the professor's unique special ability. Instead of answering, Professor An imparts a grim lesson: never reveal your abilities if you want to survive. She reveals she's learned this lesson the hard way, having been targeted and paid a heavy price for her power. The students fall silent, with Gongling apologizing as they finally grasp the weight of her warning. Shui questions the wisdom of reporting their abilities upon enrollment, recalling her recent warning. Professor An explains the data is confidential, though her slight hesitation suggests it's not foolproof. He correctly interprets her vague reassurance as a sign that their information is still at risk. Their conversation is cut short as the transport arrives, revealing the stunning futuristic cityscape. The students marvel at the capital city of Kyoto, a dazzling metropolis of flying vehicles and holographic displays. Two students weep with envy at the sight of million-dollar hoverboards, feeling poor in comparison. A more cynical student scoffs at their excitement, dismissing them as inexperienced outsiders. Gongling, however, is simply captivated by the breathtaking view of the advanced city. Chungmo cheekily points out to a surprised Shui that Gongling has been sticking close to him. With a knowing grin, he wonders if her attention is due to gratitude or romantic interest. Chungmo reacts with playful disbelief to Shui's observation. He tries to deflect, pretending they were just casually chatting. The students arrive at the Huaxia Gene Evolution University. An official briefs the new arrivals about the entrance test. Chungmo and the others discuss their predicament after the attack. Medical staff approach Chungmo, recognizing him as an injured student. Chungmo inquires about the cost of the offered medical treatment. Shui quickly arranges for a meal, impressing the medical staff. Chungmo boasts about his upcoming interactions with the nurses. Shui and Gongling react to Chungmo's enthusiastic behavior. Shui finally arrives at his futuristic dorm room, dragging his luggage and the weight of his journey. Leaning against the door, he exhales in relief, still processing the unexpected dangers he faced on the way. He sits on his bed, acknowledging that his good luck has run its course, and it's time for serious, systematic training. While reviewing the admissions guide, he realizes the money from his parents will barely cover living expenses, let alone cultivation costs. A smirk forms as he calculates the substantial rewards for a high evaluation score, a prize worth more than his father's salary. The harsh reality hits him as a crying wallet visualizes the astronomical cost of the energy potions needed for his growth. With the entrance test looming, he searches his belongings, knowing his success hinges on securing more money and medicine. He examines a single energy pill, aware that reaching his target of C-class mid-level requires activating 20 gene points. Realizing he's only 2 points shy, he understands that one successful night could fast-track months of progress. His determination solidifies as he decides to unlock the gene points in his left hand, aiming to perfect his projectile ability. Shui awakens, realizing he fell asleep on the floor after his training. He stretches, surprised to find himself sprawled out on the dorm room floor. He wonders how he ended up sleeping there instead of his bed. He realizes he must have collapsed from exhaustion after his intense gene activation. Professor An unexpectedly enters his room, catching him off guard. He quickly tries to compose himself, following her instruction to close the door. He asks Professor An what brings her to his dorm room so early. She instructs him to close his eyes, adding to the mystery. She places a piece of paper in front of him, asking him to read it with his eyes closed. He successfully reads the paper telepathically, confirming his newfound ability. Professor An advises Shutui to get dressed. Shutui is bewildered by the early morning interruption. A cheerful senior student bursts in, ready to escort Shutui. Chungmo observes the scene with a surprised expression. The senior student awkwardly retreats after realizing he's relieved to discover it's a battle report, not a contract. His shock turns to disbelief as he reads the report, claiming he killed someone. Professor An insists Shutui take credit for the capture, pointing out the hefty government rewards that come with it. Realizing the distinction between assisting and killing, Shutui eagerly signs the report to secure his reward. With the paperwork settled, she hands the report back and instructs him to head to the test with his escort. The senior student, who has been eavesdropping the whole time, looks utterly stunned by what he's overheard. The door slides open and Professor An steps out, completely unaware of her audience. He tries to play it cool as the professor walks past, but his awkward posture gives him away. He watches her disappear down the corridor, his mind racing with what he just learned. Shutui emerges from his room, ready for the test, and finds his escort still looking dazed. The senior grabs Shutui, praising him for supposedly winning over the university's iceberg goddess in a single night. A flustered Shutui quickly clarifies the misunderstanding, explaining it was just official business about the ambush. The senior points out Shutui's private room as proof of special treatment, but Shutui explains his roommate is in the medical center. The senior's imagination runs wild, believing Shutui injured his roommate for a private meeting with the professor. Annoyed, Shutui realizes he must silence the gossiping senior before the rumors destroy his school life. He changes tactics, proposing a friendly bet to settle the matter once and for all. Shutui challenges the senior to dodge a single projectile. Failure means eternal silence about the morning's events. The senior smirks, confidently accepting the freshman's challenge, seeing it as an easy victory. He reveals he's a C-rank liberator from the Extreme Department, specializing in speed and reaction time. The gray-eyed young man confidently states that his nerve reaction speed is only 0.01 seconds and questions if his opponent really wants to challenge him. His eyes flash with determination as he prepares to strike. The blonde tries to counter the move but is shocked by the incredible speed, realizing his opponent is unbelievably fast. The senior student reacts with surprise as a projectile approaches. The projectile hits its mark, stunning the senior. Shutui declares victory, reminding the senior of their wager. The senior accuses Shutui of cheating, pointing out the unexpected second projectile. Shutui calmly explains he didn't break the rules of their agreement. The senior is taken aback, realizing he's been outsmarted. Shutui reveals he used half a projectile in each hand. The senior is annoyed, realizing he fell for Shutui's trick. The senior concedes defeat, promising to keep quiet. Shutui reflects on his successful gene activation and increased skill. The senior cheekily demands payment for the damaged door, leaving Shutui speechless. They arrive at the massive, high-tech testing center where his future will be decided. The senior makes a quick exit to get his teeth checked, leaving Shutui to face the test alone. Shutui breezes into the Wisdom Department's test, noting the lack of a line for the unpopular major. An examiner reviews his file, confirming his 20 gene points and a low C rank, but also his special sensing ability. She directs him to another department to test his sensing, hinting at a potential rank upgrade. The young man walks down the corridor, thinking that the test in the Wisdom Department is very casual, and just looking at the laboratory sheet is enough. He wonders how to pass the sensing ability test without drawing too much attention while still raising his evaluation level. As he approaches the door with the other participants, he prepares for his turn. Standing among them, he looks ahead with surprise, anticipating what will happen next. Shutui sweats, seemingly nervous about something. In a futuristic testing room, an examiner focuses on a mysterious box. The examiner announces Shutui's initial test results. A silver-haired student contemplates Shutui's potential. The silver-haired student focuses intently, seemingly using a special ability. The examiner records the range of Shutui's sensing ability. The examiner considers manipulating the test results. The examiner reacts to something unexpected. The silver-haired student worries he's been discovered. The silver-haired student feigns eye discomfort, hoping to avoid suspicion. The silver-haired student decides to finish the test quickly. The examiner at the Wisdom Department explains the test. Shutui is instructed to describe the contents of a mysterious box. Shutui confirms he's ready for the test. He focuses his senses, trying to see the contents of the box. He reports the range of his sensing ability. He realizes his ability has improved since leaving home. Shutui contemplates the benefits and risks of being a spy. Shutui records his observations on the admission test form. The examiner delivers Shutui's initial test results and further instructions. A professor approaches Shutui wanting a private word. He introduces himself as Professor Q from the sensory department. Shutui wonders why a sensory professor is interested in a wisdom student. He suspects the professor might know about his falsified report. Professor Q offers Shutui a special recruitment quota. The senior student is shocked by the professor's generous offer. Shutui is surprised to see the senior student there. He considers the benefits of the special admissions offer. He weighs the pros and cons of switching departments. Shutui politely declines the offer, sticking with his chosen path. The senior student is baffled by Shutui's hesitation, urging him to simply accept the incredible offer. Professor Q clarifies that any transfer requires the signature of Shutui's current professor. The senior insists Professor An will approve, trying to convince a stubborn Shutui not to pass up the chance. Professor Q's demeanor instantly changes to one of shock upon learning Shutui's mentor is in Xiaoxu. The senior proudly confirms the connection, causing the professor to break out in a nervous sweat. Backpedaling, Professor Q weakly extends the offer again, stressing that the choice is entirely voluntary. The professor's confidence completely evaporates, his nervous expression revealing his fear of poaching a student from the infamous Professor An. Shutui politely agrees to consider it, leaving the senior wondering why the professor's enthusiasm suddenly vanished. Walking down the hall, Shutui asks the senior if his impressive bean-flicking skill is enough to raise his evaluation level. He cheekily questions whether his projectile ability falls under the extreme or mysterious department's criteria. The senior scoffs at what he perceives as Shutui's humble brag, but confirms any ability can be tested. Eager to boost his score, Shutui excitedly asks to be taken to the testing center immediately. They arrive at a crowded testing facility, and just as they join the long queue, Shutui's name is called. Shutui steps forward onto the testing grid, raising his hand to identify himself. As he waits for his turn, his wrist device suddenly buzzes with an incoming notification. He's surprised by a flood of messages, but decides to ignore them until after his important test. The line is thrown into chaos as a student is violently shoved aside by someone forcing their way through. A muscular student and his entourage barge through the crowd, citing their E-level intermediate privilege to cut the line. Shutui is pushed out of the way, grabbing a railing to keep his balance as he glares at the arrogant newcomer. The other students back away, intimidated by the privileged student's status and grumbling about his connections. The privileged student questions Shutui's muttering, flaunting his E-level intermediate status. He demands the F-class civilians leave, unwilling to tolerate any delay. A text box explains the legal basis of personal privilege in this world. An example of privilege in action, priority access to accommodations and services. Another example, restricted areas based on privilege level. The difficulty of upgrading privilege is highlighted, emphasizing the student's status. The silver-haired student analyzes the situation, assessing the privileged student's power. He observes the privileged student's behavior, disapproving of his arrogance. The privileged student uses his status to demand immediate access, claiming urgency. The silver-haired student calmly intervenes, warning the privileged student about uploaded information. The silver-haired student calmly asks the professor about the wait time, ignoring the bully's presence. Enraged by the perceived slight, the privileged student grabs him by the collar, misinterpreting his calm as excitement. He throws a furious punch, intending to make an example of the silver-haired student. But the silver-haired student effortlessly catches the fist, his cold gaze questioning the bully's judgment. With a simple squeeze, he applies immense pressure, causing a sickening crack in the bully's hand. The muscular student recoils in agony, his arm throbbing from the unexpected counter. He glares up from the floor, cursing his opponent who stands over him completely unfazed. Fueled by pain and humiliation, the bully launches another desperate, wild swing. The silver-haired student's eyes narrow, his focus shifting to a more vulnerable target. He ends the confrontation with a single, well-placed kick, sending the arrogant student flying. The bully's face contorts in agony from the devastatingly precise blow. The onlookers cringe in collective horror at the brutal takedown. His friends stare in disbelief, calling the silver-haired student's move shameless. Fueled by loyalty, the bully's entourage charges forward to avenge their fallen leader. The first attacker's punch is effortlessly intercepted by the calm defender. With blinding speed, the silver-haired student unleashes a series of precise strikes. His counterattack lands perfectly, striking all three assailants at once. In an instant, all four opponents are neutralized, leaving the silver-haired student standing alone. The crowd murmurs in disbelief, unable to comprehend how he defeated three people so quickly. A student mistakenly credits Shui for the victory, shocked that a supposed newcomer could defeat a top freshman in a 1v4. The silver-haired student offers a condescending rematch to his defeated opponent. He taunts the bully with threats of more precise and painful attacks. Onlookers excitedly discuss the fight, impressed by the silver-haired student's skill. Online comments explode with reactions to the fight, praising the victor. The silver-haired student realizes he accidentally revealed more skill than intended. He angrily demands the onlookers stop recording, threatening future retribution. The defeated bully fumes, vowing revenge for the humiliation. Another student approaches the silver-haired student, concerned about the consequences. The silver-haired student confidently dismisses the concern, ready to face any repercussions. He points to a security camera, asserting his actions were justified self-defense. The senior warns Shui that even with a good reason, the disciplinary committee might view his actions as excessive. He explains the real danger lies in ignoring the bully's legally protected E-level intermediate privilege. The senior lays out the worst-case scenario: expulsion from the university and crippling medical fines. Completely unfazed, Shui calmly states that the choice of what happens next is up to them. He then turns his attention to his wrist device, finally checking the flood of messages he'd ignored. A confident smirk spreads across his face as he realizes his long-awaited rewards have finally come through. With a single tap on the holographic screen, he accepts the incoming notifications. His device lights up with a cascade of rewards, including cash bonuses and a massive privilege upgrade to D-level. The senior stares in confusion at Shui's unsettling grin, worried the threat of expulsion has driven him mad. He quickly changes his tune, rushing to the injured bully and offering to make the whole incident disappear. The bully acknowledges the senior's attempt to de-escalate but demands a proper resolution. The senior offers a solution: a formal apology and a hefty sum for medical expenses. The bully scoffs at the offer, getting in the senior's face and dismissing his influence as worthless. Shui steps forward, taking control of the situation and thanking the senior for his loyalty. The arrogant student warns Shui that he's been given a chance to walk away. He leans in, telling Shui not to regret the path he's chosen. Shui calmly returns the threat, leaving the senior stunned by his sudden confidence. A disciplinary officer arrives, furious that freshmen are already breaking school regulations. He orders all involved parties to be taken to the disciplinary department for isolation. The officer then commands his team to gather surveillance footage and witness statements for a thorough investigation. The arrogant student flashes his E-level privilege card, confidently spinning his version of the events to the officer. The disciplinary officer acknowledges the bully's status, agreeing he's entitled to preferential treatment and won't be detained. Smirking, the bully taunts his opponent, certain that his own privilege will protect him while the other faces punishment. Shui returns the smirk with a cool, challenging gaze, questioning the bully's overconfidence. He calmly informs the officer that he just remembered his own D-level low privilege, activating his wrist device to prove it. The officer and the bully are left utterly speechless, staring in stunned disbelief at the sudden turn of events. The bully erupts in laughter, dismissing the claim as absurd and pointing out that even teachers struggle to achieve that rank. The officer internally panics, realizing this freshman outranks him after years of his own hard work. He struggles to comprehend how an 18-year-old could possess such status, suspecting a powerful family background is at play. After a quick verification, the officer's demeanor shifts entirely, confirming Shui's superior privilege and dismissing him with a simple request for a report. The bully is utterly flabbergasted by Shui's sudden privilege reveal. He accuses Shui of lying about his D-level status. A disciplinary officer addresses the gathered students. The officer lectures on the importance of following rules. The bully and his entourage are escorted away. Someone posts about the fight online, exaggerating Shui's role. The senior student clarifies the misinformation about Shui. They decide to focus on the evaluation test. Shui receives unexpected attention and care from the examiners. Shui's admission test results are displayed, confirming his C rank. Shui arrives at the bustling freshman registration and payment office. He steps up to counter number 3, while other students gossip in the background. The registrar confirms his details, laying out the steep cost of his tuition and fees. She then reveals his D-level privilege grants him a substantial state subsidy, much to his benefit. Meanwhile, the crowd buzzes with rumors about his recent 1v4 victory and his supposed family background. Shui grits his teeth, annoyed that his achievements are being overshadowed by false assumptions. The students continue to compare him to other top-tier freshmen, debating who is the strongest. After completing the process, the registrar hands him his official admission credentials. Just as he takes the card, his wrist device buzzes with an incoming notification. A holographic message appears, revealing a summons from Professor An to meet her at a research institute. The registrar, seemingly annoyed, plans to thank Professor An for the special admission quota. A close-up reveals the registrar's intense and determined expression. A high-tech control room, filled with screens displaying data streams, suggests clandestine operations. Text on a screen details an observation task assigned to Operative Number 26, targeting an anomaly. The observation task officially commences, initiating surveillance on the designated target. A futuristic cityscape showcases advanced architecture, with a guard standing before a research institute. A hand interacts with a futuristic interface, likely granting access to a secure area. Professor An explains access protocols to Shui within the futuristic setting. Professor An directs Shui to a specific location within the technologically advanced space. Professor An reveals she has 3 specific matters to discuss with Shui. Shui sits awkwardly, rendered speechless and blushing by the professor's presence. Across from him, Professor An calmly reviews data on a transparent holographic screen. She offers to sign his transfer to a specialized class, giving him an unexpected opportunity. He deflects with over-the-top flattery, claiming her elegance is almost too much to handle. The professor remains completely unimpressed by his clumsy attempt to change the subject. He sweats nervously, realizing his inner thoughts are an open book to someone so perceptive. Getting down to business, she reveals the first reason for their meeting, delivering an official apology from the city guard. He clenches his fist, feeling the apology is misplaced and should be directed to the families of the fallen. Without waiting for a response, she assigns him an internship at a research institute, leaving him no room to object. She then sweetens the deal, offering a monthly energy supplement and her personal guidance as perks of the new job. Shui enthusiastically accepts the internship offer. He clarifies his primary interest is in improving his abilities. Professor An shifts the conversation to his learning plan. She explains the importance of mentality for their department. She emphasizes the role of mental power in gene abilities. Shui displays the small steel balls he uses as projectiles. Professor An demonstrates the power of mental manipulation. She explains how mental power can control physical objects. She highlights the potential of strong spiritual power. She introduces the concept of inner vision. The silver-haired student contemplates something on a busy city street. He realizes Professor An likely knew about his hidden ability. He reflects on the difficulty of keeping secrets from Professor An. On a futuristic transport, the concept of inner vision is explained. The benefits of opening specific gene base points are illustrated. The genetic chain for vision and its activation requirements are detailed. The unique cultivation method for X-ray vision is discussed. He reacts with excitement to the potential of his newfound ability. The concept of a lucky break in gene opening is introduced. He inquires about the implications of X-ray vision for his department. Professor An explains the higher success rate of X-ray vision activation in their department. Shui acknowledges the information, seemingly unconcerned. Professor An stresses the importance of activating gene base points strategically. A shirtless figure demonstrates the interconnectedness of gene ability chains. The figure explains the limitations of resources for gene activation. Shui expresses understanding but has another question. Professor An encourages Shui to voice his question. Shui inquires about the practical applications of X-ray vision. Professor An explains the primary function of X-ray vision in their department. Shui reveals his X-ray vision is different, displaying a card. Someone offers a can of soda, encouraging their friend to talk. The friend accepts the drink, about to share some news. He explains a powerful family contacted him through his father. He reveals the family's influence in Kyoto and their request. His friend considers the implications of this request. He asks if his friend has a grudge against the family. The friend denies any ill will, explaining the family's widespread influence. He advises caution, suggesting they avoid provoking the family. He jokes about the consequences of escalating the situation. His friend explains the potential repercussions of such actions. A friend advises against escalating the situation, suggesting strength is the best defense. He reveals a substantial sum of money. a bribe from a powerful family. The silver-haired student is shocked by the amount, questioning the family's motives. The friend downplays the situation, framing it as a simple student dispute. The silver-haired student considers the offer, weighing the money against his principles. The friend departs, leaving the silver-haired student to contemplate his decision. Alone, he fantasizes about the potential of the money for self-improvement. He acknowledges the need for both resources and influence to achieve his goals. He uses his wrist device to access the funds, the transaction completing successfully. He accesses a secured file, recalling the password provided by Professor Ann. He studies the complex cultivation manual, noting the multiple revisions to its gene opening instructions. The document details the explosive growth potential for wisdom students, promising a royal tier of spiritual power. He imagines Professor Ann's incredible power, a form of precision sniping that even allows her to fly. A blissful smile spreads across his face as he daydreams about achieving that same level of freedom and strength. Shaking off the fantasy, he refocuses on the task at hand, preparing to begin his own cultivation. Just as he starts, his wrist device buzzes, glowing with an incoming notification. He's instantly annoyed, wondering who would dare interrupt him at such a crucial moment. The message is from Gong Ling, inviting him to her dorm and teasing him with a mention of her beautiful roommate. His mind immediately conjures an image of the two women, leaving him flustered by the tempting invitation. He forcefully shakes the thought away, reminding himself that improving his strength is the only priority right now. He confirms his understanding and agreement over the phone. He ends the call, seemingly satisfied with the conversation. He relays the information to his companions, seeking their input. He shares the news that disciplinary action will be minimal. His friend questions if this concludes the matter entirely. Another friend analyzes Shui's departmental affiliation. A friend suggests a new plan, sparking intrigue. He initially dismisses the idea, citing family instructions. The friend elaborates on his plan, emphasizing its potential impact. Back on campus, life continues as students navigate the futuristic grounds. The silver-haired student enjoys a morning snack, grateful for a friend's generosity. He checks the news, curious about the latest happenings. He scrolls through social media, finding posts about the freshman incident. He reacts with annoyance to the exaggerated online narratives. He vents his frustration at the misleading titles and rumors. He suspects someone is deliberately stirring up conflict. He resolves to become stronger, regardless of future challenges. He decides to prioritize the opening ceremony. He arrives at the school square, finding a large crowd gathered. From a high vantage point, he observes the assembled students. The silver-haired student observes the opening ceremony from above. Gongling and Chungmo react to the ceremony below. A powerful figure takes the stage, radiating authority. The principal, Wen Xinglin, prepares to address the students. He unleashes a dramatic display of energy, captivating the audience. The energy bolt strikes a distant building, showcasing his power. Students react with awe and excitement to the display. Shui focuses his energy, preparing his own demonstration. He unleashes a concentrated blast of energy skyward. The crowd reacts with shock and confusion to the sudden surge of power. The students debate whether the powerful display came from the mysterious or extreme department. Principal Wen Xinglin calmly informs the students that the real show is just beginning. A student's shout draws everyone's attention back to the sky for another spectacle. A new figure makes a grand entrance, descending from above on a cloud. He hovers over the campus, a clear demonstration of his aerial abilities. A third expert appears, a blindfolded man unleashing a storm of rapid attacks. The students go wild, chanting for the hero-like figure from the extreme department. Vice President Han flexes his power, representing the peak of his department's strength. The entire student body erupts in a frenzy of excitement and admiration. With the demonstrations complete, the principal steps forward to officially conclude the ceremony. The principal's holographic form towers over the crowd, delivering an inspiring message about limitless potential. Shui, however, remains unconvinced, questioning the absolute nature of the principal's claim. He visualizes his own journey as a long, arduous climb, realizing the peak of power is still far away. Later, the students of the mysterious academy gather in a vast, high-tech, multi-purpose hall for their first class. Shui finds a seat among his new classmates, all waiting for the lecture to begin. A cheerful professor named Wen Xiao introduces himself, revealing his dual role in both the mysterious and extreme departments. He points to the horn on his head, using it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of sloppy spiritual cultivation. Despite the warning, he claims not to mind his unique feature, though his expression suggests otherwise. The class erupts in laughter, amused by the professor's light-hearted approach to a serious warning. Shui, however, sees the deeper meaning, connecting the professor's condition to Xiaoxu's previous lesson on precise gene activation. The silver-haired student is determined not to mess up. Professor Wenxiao approves of the student's attentiveness. Class begins with the distribution of cultivation materials. The silver-haired student receives his cultivation bottle. Spiritual power is the foundation of the mysterious department. The professor explains the purpose of the vacuum tellurium bottle. Instructions on how to use the bottle are given. The professor emphasizes focus and control during the process. Students listen intently to the professor's guidance. Shui concentrates on the task, following the instructions carefully. Shui's cultivation bottle explodes dramatically, startling the class. The silver-haired student watches the commotion, seemingly unaffected. Professor Wen examines Shui's hand after the bottle incident. The professor checks Shui's information, noticing his department. The professor praises Shui's talent despite the mishap. He offers Shui a larger cultivation bottle and more resources. The professor suggests a transfer to a different department. Shui considers the professor's unexpected offer. He politely explains his commitment to his current mentor. The professor expresses disappointment but understands his choice. Professor An provides Shui with a unique cultivation method. The silver-haired student contemplates the new cultivation technique. Professor Wenxiao dismisses the class after a brief discussion. Classmates gossip about Shui and the exploding bottle. Professor Wenxiao and Shui return to the classroom. The silver-haired student regrets attracting attention. Professor Wenxiao resumes the lesson, shifting to practical applications. The professor calls for a teaching assistant, Mr. Deng. Mr. Deng approaches the front of the class. Mr. Deng introduces himself and his accomplishments. Students marvel at Deng Wei's impressive 3 ability chains. Professor Wenxiao poses a question about the extreme department. He explains the rules of a simple battle demonstration. Chengmo eagerly anticipates a real fight. The silver-haired student makes a request to Professor Wen. He challenges Shui to a practical exercise. Chengmo and Shui react to the unexpected challenge. Professor Wen questions the silver-haired student's motives. The silver-haired student explains his reasoning for the challenge. Shui is called to the stage for the exercise. Chengmo fumes, seeing the challenge as an insult to their entire department and worrying Shui is outmatched. Unwilling to be called a coward, Shui rises to accept the challenge with a determined glare. Before he can step forward, another student's hand slams down, halting his advance. A confident classmate volunteers to take Shui's place in the demonstration. Shui is left momentarily confused by the unexpected intervention. The volunteer, Che-Jan, proudly introduces himself as a powerful student with 2 gene ability chains. The classroom erupts in whispers, recognizing Che-Jan as a top genius and eagerly awaiting the confrontation. Professor Wen suggests to the challenger that a match with Che-Jan would be a more valuable lesson for the class. The silver-haired student condescendingly agrees, calling the department's top genius his dessert. With the new matchup set, Professor Wen clicks a device to begin the practical exercise. The 2 students stand ready on a futuristic platform as the class watches. Professor Wenxiao reminds them of the potential dangers of the demonstration. The professor signals the start of the exercise with a dramatic gesture. Che-Jan unleashes a fiery projectile, warning his opponent to be careful. The silver-haired student swiftly counters, telling Che-Jan to watch out. Che-Jan is caught off guard by the silver-haired student's speed and agility. The audience reacts with alarm as the fiery projectile heads towards them. Professor Wenxiao calmly assures the class that the situation is under control. The professor intercepts the projectile, preventing any harm to the onlookers. The silver-haired student subdues Che-Jan, ending the exercise quickly. The silver-haired student lectures his defeated opponent, who defiantly demands a rematch. He offers Che-Jan the first move, but the proud student angrily refuses the condescending gesture. Learning from his mistake, Che-Jan powers up his fiery fists, determined to use a different strategy this time. As the rematch begins, Che-Jan leaps back to create distance, but his opponent closes the gap in an instant. The silver-haired student lands a powerful blow, mockingly complimenting Che-Jan's improved effort. He swiftly ends the second round with another decisive strike, leaving Che-Jan completely overwhelmed. Professor Wenxiao cheerfully concludes the demonstration, thanking the thoroughly defeated Chejan for his participation. The professor uses the one-sided fight as a lesson on strategy and overcoming weaknesses for the mysterious department. Just as the professor tries to wrap up the lesson, the silver-haired student interrupts, not yet satisfied. He points directly at Shu Tui, reminding everyone of his original challenge and putting the spotlight back on him. The silver-haired student directly challenges Shu Tui to a fight. He insists on a real battle with Shu Tui. Shu Tui and the silver-haired student approach each other. The silver-haired student wants to make an example of Shu Tui. Chungmo gives Shu Tui some tactical advice. The silver-haired student acknowledges the advice. He considers the implications of making too much of a scene. Someone prepares to record the upcoming fight. Another student asks Shu Tui for permission to record. The silver-haired student realizes the value of recording the fight. The silver-haired student shrugs off concerns about being recorded, eager to start the fight. The recording begins, capturing the two students facing off in the futuristic classroom. Both students confirm their readiness, the tension in the room thick with anticipation. Professor Wenshao officially starts the exercise, his expression a mix of excitement and apprehension. Shu Tui launches forward with surprising speed, catching the silver-haired student off guard. The silver-haired student reacts quickly, unleashing a burst of energy. He looks surprised, seemingly not expecting Shu Tui's unusual tactic. Shu Tui's attack connects, sending the silver-haired student sprawling. The silver-haired student questions the nature of Shu Tui's attack, recognizing its unique properties. He analyzes the attack, realizing its complexity and potential impact. Professor Wen recognizes the attack as a crude but brilliant use of mental power, confirming Shu Tui's genius. The challenger retaliates with a swift kick, determined to deny Shu Tui another chance to use his trump card. Shu Tui is caught completely off guard by the sudden physical assault. The silver-haired student smirks confidently as his attack closes in on its target. His powerful kick connects squarely with Shu Tui's head in a stunning blow. As the challenger lands, Shu Tui staggers backward, reeling from the impact. Wiping his lip, Shu Tui glares back with fierce determination, refusing to be intimidated. The silver-haired student returns the intense gaze, ready to continue the fight. He unleashes another powerful move, stomping the ground with incredible force. Shockwaves ripple across the platform, racing towards a bracing Shu Tui. Shu Tui realizes his mind can see the attacks, but his body is too slow to keep up. He shifts tactics, relying on his spiritual sense to predict his opponent's every move. A glowing blue pyramid materializes from thin air, a manifestation of his mental power. The silver-haired student scoffs, certain he won't fall for another projectile trick. He moves to swat the seemingly simple attack aside with casual confidence. But the pyramid slams into his face, proving far faster and more unpredictable than he expected. The challenger erupts in pure rage, humiliated by the direct hit. Shu Tui returns a cool, satisfied smirk, having successfully turned the tables. Losing his composure, the silver-haired student abandons strategy and lunges forward in a furious assault. He launches himself into the air, aiming a devastating kick to end the fight decisively. Shu Tui delivers a swift, powerful kick. The silver-haired student blocks the incoming attack. Shu Tui follows up with another forceful kick. The silver-haired student is sent flying across the platform. He lands hard, clearly impacted by the attack. Shu Tui lands gracefully, maintaining his composure. Shu Tui delivers a final decisive blow. The silver-haired student cries out, overwhelmed by the attack. Chejan intervenes, protesting the intensity of the fight. Chungmo defends Shu Tui, pointing out the challenger's earlier ruthlessness. A blue-haired student explains the difference between exercises and real combat. Professor Wen considers the student's words a thoughtful expression on his face. The silver-haired student agrees with the blue-haired student's assessment. He challenges the blue-haired student to a real fight, a smirk playing on his lips. The blue-haired student accepts the challenge, radiating confidence. He prepares for the fight, a determined glint in his eyes. The silver-haired student requests permission from Professor Wen to use his full abilities. Professor Wen grants permission, curious to see what will unfold. The blue-haired student asks to borrow a specific, powerful ability. The silver-haired student reacts with surprise and a hint of apprehension. The silver-haired student contemplates his next move, a slight smirk on his face. He asks to borrow some steel beads, having forgotten his own. A student offers him pellet soybeans, causing some amusement. He asks another student, Qing Jing, for 2 pearls. Qing Jing readily agrees to help him out. She hands over the pearls with a friendly smile. He thanks Gongling for acquiring the projectiles. He prepares to use the pearls, warning his opponent to be careful. He analyzes Deng Wei's speed, strategizing for a successful hit. Deng Wei taunts him, confident in his own abilities. Deng Wei charges forward, vowing to unleash his full power and end the fight decisively. He leaps into action, narrowly dodging a familiar blue pyramid projectile. The silver-haired student smirks, shattering the mental construct with a single punch, now wise to the trick. Shutui grits his teeth, his initial strategy completely neutralized. Undeterred, he summons a barrage of glowing blue projectiles, preparing a new offensive. Deng Wei weaves through the incoming attacks, eager to see what else his opponent has in store. He closes the distance, taunting Shutui about his dwindling mental energy. With a look of fierce concentration, Shutui accepts the challenge. He unleashes another wave of projectiles, hoping to overwhelm his fast-moving opponent. Deng Wei scoffs, effortlessly deflecting the attack as he continues his relentless advance. Deng Wei launches a swift attack, dodging Shutui's projectiles. He realizes he's trapped in a cycle of evasion and needs a new plan. He narrowly avoids another projectile, determined to break free. He creates space for a counterattack, pushing back against Shutui's tactics. He prepares to strike, confident he's found an opening. He spins, aiming to disrupt Shutui's rhythm and break his control. He unleashes a powerful kick, aiming to shatter Shutui's strategy. Shutui observes Deng Wei's movements, anticipating his next move. He questions Deng Wei's aerial capabilities, challenging his mobility. Deng Wei realizes he's been lured into a trap by Shutui's projectiles. Deng Wei is shocked by a sudden realization mid-fight. Shutui channels energy, preparing a devastating counterattack. He unleashes a barrage of pearl projectiles with incredible force. Deng Wei is propelled backward by the unexpected impact. He crashes to the ground, the attack clearly taking its toll. Deng Wei writhes in pain, the aftermath of the attack evident. The class reacts with stunned silence to the sudden turn of events. Chungmo cheers Shutui's victory, celebrating his classmates' unexpected triumph. Professor Wenshao rushes to the scene, concerned about Deng Wei's condition. The professor urgently calls for medical assistance, realizing the severity of the situation. Medical personnel rush Deng Wei away on a stretcher. Professor Wen anxiously awaits the medic's diagnosis. The medic explains the extent of Deng Wei's injuries. Another medic questions Professor Wen's sudden seriousness. Professor Wen seems to be contemplating something important. He instructs the medics to prioritize Deng Wei's treatment. The silver-haired student watches as Deng Wei is taken away. Another student approaches, concerned about the consequences. The silver-haired student expresses no regret for his actions. Professor Wen reflects on the day's events. Professor Wen warns the class that their freshman protection only lasts 3 months. He cheerfully reassures them that the school's medical facilities are more than capable of handling any issues. With the lesson concluded, the professor moves on to the day's assignment. Students receive the task on their personal holographic devices, ready to begin their work. Meanwhile, the school's social media explodes with sensationalized posts about the classroom brawl. Back in his room, Shutui finally gets a moment to himself after the long day. Bandaged and exhausted, he collapses onto the couch, feeling the strain of the recent events. He mentally recaps the chaotic day, from the online drama to the intense fight. Shutui sighs, overwhelmed by how eventful his first day has been. His weary expression shifts to one of confusion as he notices something unexpected. Shutui notices a new message on his wrist device. He reads the dorm rules left by his roommate. A girl enters and asks if he's Shutui. A stylish senior introduces himself as Luo Morong, Shutui's roommate. Shutui greets his new roommate respectfully. Shutui recognizes Luo Morong as one of the school's popular seniors. Luo Morong asks if Shutui has read the dorm rules. Shutui nervously agrees to the rules. Luo Morong notices Shutui's injuries. Shutui explains he got hurt during a class exercise. Luo Morong scoffs, implying Shutui's recent actions will have consequences. Shutui recalls a similar warning from Professor Wen. Luo Morong tosses Shutui some medical supplies. Shutui gratefully catches the offered ointment. Shutui asks Luo Morong about the 3-month protection period. Luo Morong sighs, realizing Shutui's lack of knowledge about school policies. He explains the university encourages competition among students. A flashback shows a student harnessing energy, facing another. A holographic display shows rankings and rewards for top students. The display details the varying levels of resource allocation based on rank. Shutui is stunned by the value of the D-grade potions, realizing the school's immense investment in its students. Luo Morong explains the 3-month protection period for freshmen ends soon, after which the real competition begins. He then points out that some people, like Shui, have already started bending the rules. The senior warns that the fight for rankings is ruthless, often leading to serious injuries or worse. With a final piece of advice, Luo Murong tells him to train hard if he wants to survive being a target. The door slides shut, leaving Shui to process the grim reality of his situation. Holding the ointment, Shui smirks, realizing his roommate's harsh words hide a softer side. His expression turns serious as he accepts that he has indeed become a marked man. He mentally lists his new rivals, knowing both Yuanshu and Deng Wei are watching his every move. A confident grin returns as he remembers the fight was recorded, giving him all the proof he needs. Zhu Tui decides to review the cultivation methods from Professor Wen. He holds a glowing blue card, intrigued by its contents. The futuristic campus bustles with activity as a flying vehicle passes overhead. Refreshed after a shower, Zhu Tui feels the positive effects of his cultivation. An incoming call interrupts his post-shower routine. He answers the call on his wrist device. The caller, a blonde student, shares some exciting news. The caller reveals information about a highly ranked student named Rhythm. Zhu Tui agrees to check out the information, intrigued. He wonders if someone has placed a bounty on him. The silver-haired student is furious about a deceptively edited video. He decides to take action, initiating a call. He contacts the video's uploader, Lian Jinjiang. Zhu Tui confronts Lian about the misleading video. Lian makes a brazen offer to alter the video for a hefty price. Lian laughs, revealing his extortion attempt was a joke. Zhu Tui is taken aback by the unexpected turn. Lian doubles down, claiming the video is accurate. Zhu Tui questions Lian's motives for spreading misinformation. Lian dismisses Zhu Tui and ends the call abruptly. Zhu Tui initiates a call, his finger hovering over a holographic interface. Lian Jinjiang leans back in his chair, dismissing teenagers as childish. Yuanshu contemplates Lian's cunning and the flawless video. He considers lodging a formal complaint against Lian. Yuanshu gets dressed, determined to take action. A futuristic skyscraper stands tall against the night sky. A registrar greets Yuanshu, ready to assist him. Yuanshu informs the registrar he wants to file a report. Deputy Director Wang arrives, inquiring about the issue. Yuanshu explains the situation, suspecting Lian of extortion. Deputy Director Wang considers the serious accusation of extortion with a thoughtful frown. Yuanshu confirms the gravity of the situation, promising to file a formal report after his meeting. The deputy director orders Lian's account to be blocked immediately, with further punishment to be decided later. Meanwhile, the university's interim committee gathers in a high-tech conference room to discuss a pressing matter. The principal opens the meeting, focusing the discussion on the recent incident between Zhu Tui and Deng Wei. The vice president of the Extreme Department demands severe punishment for Zhu Tui's ruthless actions. The Mysteries Department's vice president defends Zhu Tui, arguing he was provoked and his counterattack was justified. The committee debates the appropriate level of punishment, torn between discipline and fairness. The head of academic affairs places the primary blame on Deng Wei, citing his initial malicious intent. The principal turns to Professor Wen, seeking his perspective on the heated classroom confrontation. Professor Wen Xiao nervously tries to explain his role in the classroom incident. The principal sternly reprimands Professor Wen for his lack of control. Professor Wen sweats profusely under the principal's intense scrutiny. The principal emphasizes the importance of fairness in interdepartmental competitions. The principal seeks Professor Wen's opinion on how to handle the situation. Another committee member suggests Zhu Tui should also face consequences. A committee member argues that even justified retaliation needs a measured response. Another member emphasizes the importance of fostering a spirit of resistance in students. The principal questions the future of their school and humanity if students lack the will to fight back. The committee reaches a decision, assigning responsibility to Professor Wen and opting for a less severe approach. Deputy Director Wang presents the principal with the full results of his investigation. The principal grimly reviews the holographic report, his expression hardening with each detail. Other committee members are left in the dark, wondering about the sudden shift in the meeting's focus. The principal projects the evidence, expressing his shock that such a scandal could occur at their university. A committee member reads the damning report, stunned by Lian Jinjiang's brazen extortion scheme. The principal delivers a harsh ultimatum to the head of the publicity department for his failure of oversight. Elsewhere, Lian Jinjiang plots his revenge, unaware that his time is running out. A sudden knock at the door interrupts his scheming, catching him completely by surprise. He opens the door to find a stern-faced agent presenting official identification. The agent, backed by his partner, serves Lian an arrest warrant for large-scale extortion. Lian Jinzhang stares in disbelief, his scheme crumbling before his very eyes. The next day, a cry of despair echoes across the university campus. A student panics, discovering the school has completely shut down video monetization. Another student urges his friends to check the official school announcement for the shocking details. The notice reveals Lian's extortion ring has been busted, and Professor Wen has been demoted for his negligence. Meanwhile, Shu Tui pushes himself to the limit, surrounded by supplements as he focuses on his cultivation. He channels his energy, forcing a breakthrough in his mental training. Exhausted but successful, he finally completes the difficult process. Lying on his bed, he realizes he's unlocked his first gene layer in record time, surpassing even the most talented geniuses. He reflects on his newfound strength, confident he can now stand his ground against powerful opponents like Deng Wei. Lying on his bed, Shu Tui has a sudden brilliant idea. He decides to test the limits of his newly enhanced spiritual sense. His mental perception now extends beyond his room, covering a 6-meter radius. Curious, he pushes his senses further, peering into his roommate's room. He's surprised to find his senior Luo Murong diligently practicing. His focus shifts to the ancient martial arts scrolls his roommate is studying. Suddenly, Luo Murong's sharp gaze indicates he's detected the intrusion. The senior unleashes a furious mental shout, repelling the unwanted observer. Shu Tui is thrown back by the psychic force, completely stunned by the powerful counter. Just then, the door to his room slides open with a decisive whoosh. Shu Tui looks startled, sweat beading on his forehead. Luo Murong, his roommate, appears in the doorway, looking suspicious. Shu Tui raises a hand in greeting, addressing his roommate respectfully. He explains his actions, admitting his curiosity got the better of him. Luo Murong warns him about the dangers of his reckless exploration. Shu Tui thanks him for the advice, promising to be more cautious. He inquires about the nature of Luo Murong's powerful ability. Luo Murong explains it's an ancient martial art technique, not a gene ability. He elaborates on the vast variety of gene abilities available. Shu Tui expresses surprise at the concept of resurrected martial arts. Luo Murong considers the freshman's surprising request with a thoughtful expression. Shu Tui eagerly promises to respect his privacy in exchange for a glimpse into the world of ancient martial arts. Back in his room, he dives into a mountain of books, determined to understand this new path. He studies relentlessly, absorbing every piece of information he can find on traditional cultivation. Even while walking across campus, Shu Tui remains completely engrossed in his research. He arrives for his next class, his mind buzzing with newfound knowledge. The book in his hands reveals a fascinating link between modern gene evolution and ancient theories. He realizes that ancient meditation techniques could be the key to unlocking his potential. A memory surfaces of his father teaching him to meditate, revealing a long-forgotten foundation. Suddenly, a loud noise from the front of the classroom shatters his concentration. Shu Tui recalls his father's meditation lessons. A classmate invites Shu Tui to the cafeteria. Shu Tui playfully acknowledges his large appetite. Other students react to the invitation, surprised and intrigued. Shu Tui agrees to join them for the meal. In the classroom, someone searches for Shu Tui. 3 students from the extreme department stand together, looking serious. Shu Tui identifies himself to the group. Li Jiang introduces himself and his affiliation. Lichon challenges Gyotai to a match. Li Jiang clarifies that he's not looking for trouble, just a simple sparring match. Shu Tui scoffs at their nerve, questioning their complete lack of shame. The challenger quickly distances his group from Deng Wei, insisting they aren't there for revenge. His companions join in, mocking Deng Wei as a fame-obsessed fool they want no part of. The entire group erupts in laughter, turning the tense confrontation into a spectacle. After the amusement dies down, Li Jiang clears his throat to regain focus. He reveals their true motive is to prepare for the freshman ranking list by training against Shu Tui's bizarre combat style. The silver-haired student realizes this is all about gaining an edge in the upcoming competition. Li Jiang formally proposes a refereed match, even offering to pay, but Shu Tui sees through their attempt to get a free training session. With a dismissive sigh, Shu Tui flatly rejects their self-serving proposal. Shu Tui dismisses the extreme department student's offer, annoyed by their proposed training scheme. The students sweeten the deal, offering energy replenishment medicine for Shu Tui's participation. Shu Tui realizes he's being manipulated into giving them free training. The extreme students up the ante, offering more medicine for multiple matches. Shu Tui questions if the offer stands regardless of the outcome. The futuristic campus buildings gleam under a clear sky. Inside a specialized training room, the students prepare for their sparring matches. A teacher reminds them to keep the sparring friendly and avoid serious injuries. The teacher specifically warns Shu Tui, recalling the previous classroom incident. Shu Tui agrees to the terms, and the sparring matches are about to begin. A student with vibrant pink hair confidently declares he'll go first. He instructs the silver-haired student to observe and analyze the upcoming match. The teacher confirms both fighters are ready to begin. Shu Tui advises his opponent not to hold back, a smirk playing on his lips. The pink-haired student launches himself at Shu Tui with a burst of energy. The observing students discuss Shu Tui's typical fighting style and strategize. The pink-haired student rushes Shu Tui, while another student yells a warning. Shu Tui traps the pink-haired student, showcasing impressive control. The pink-haired student acknowledges Shu Tui's skill, but dismisses it as a trick. Shu Tui unleashes a powerful unseen force, surprising his opponent. The pink-haired student stomps forward, unleashing a powerful physical attack. He scoffs at Shu Tui's tactics, believing raw power will always triumph over strategy. Another student steps up, throwing a fierce energy-infused punch directly at Shu Tui. Shu Tui effortlessly blocks the blow with a shimmering blue energy shield, much to the crowd's surprise. He remains completely unfazed, his expression calm and calculating. The attacker is stunned to discover a second hidden layer to the defensive shield. He realizes with dawning horror that he's completely unable to break through the layered defense. The combined force of the shield sends the student flying backward across the training room. His friends are baffled, wondering how Shu Tui could have perfectly overlapped two mental shields. Shu Tui coolly explains his logic, pointing out that no rule forbids using multiple shields to cover one's weaknesses. The student reacts to Shu Tui's surprisingly strong defense. A medic assesses the injured student's condition. The student insists on continuing the match despite his injury. Shu Tui is declared the winner of the match. Shu Tui awaits the next challenger. Another student eagerly volunteers to fight. Shu Tui wins again, demonstrating his prowess. Shu Tui defeats another opponent, leaving the extreme department students shocked. Shu Tui wins yet another match, solidifying his dominance. The extreme department students reflect on their losses and gains. Li Jiang offers Shu Tui payment for the sparring matches. Shu Tui watches the extreme department students leave, impressed by their work ethic. Shu Tui suddenly remembers his neglected chore. Shu Tui rushes off, declining a lunch invitation. Shu Tui completes his lab duties. Shu Tui detects a disturbing scent. He realizes the scent is coming from the lab. Shu Tui rushes towards the lab, fearing the worst. An empty bowl suggests someone has already eaten. A bandaged girl enjoys her meal, complimenting someone on their work. And Xiao Xu questions Shu Tui about his recent activities and injuries. Shu Tui looks surprised by her concern and directness. And Xiao Xu reveals her deeper interest in his rapid healing. She suggests they begin an experiment related to his recovery. They arrive at a high-tech laboratory. And Xiao Xu comments on Shu Tui's familiarity with the lab. She presses him for details about his injury. Shu Tui sweats nervously under her intense gaze. He realizes the source of the unusual scent he detected earlier. Shu Tui observes in Xiao Xu in a futuristic chamber, seemingly unharmed. Shu Tui questions Professor An about the incubators and their contents. Professor An reveals the incubators contain clones of herself and Shu Tui. Shu Tui is shocked to learn his clone was created upon his school entry. Professor An directs Shu Tui to prepare for the experiment. Shu Tui inquires about Professor An's injuries. Professor An hints at a close relationship with her teacher. Shu Tui finds the situation unsettling. Professor An explains the biocode entry process. Rows of incubators containing clones are revealed. Professor An discusses the rarity of medical cloning technology. Shu Tui marvels at Institute 14's access to rare resources. He wonders about the cost of using such valuable resources. Professor An introduces the School of Genre Metahumans. Professor An offers Shu Tui a choice to join their school. Shu Tui decides to join, intrigued by the potential benefits. Professor An promises a special reward for his decision. A rare evolved black crown queen bee is revealed. The professor explains the bee's spiritual gene enhancement properties. The queen bee's spiritual swarm control ability is detailed. Another ability, spiritual whip, is described, highlighting its potential for control and punishment. Professor An explains the high failure rate of the procedure. Shu Tui contemplates the necessity of a clone for the experiment. Professor An reassures Shu Tui about the reduced mental strain with a clone. Professor An encourages Shu Tui and directs him to the equipment. Shu Tui sits and receives instructions for the experiment. Professor An checks Shu Tui's readiness, the experiment about to begin. The experiment starts, initiated by Professor An. A surge of energy flows, indicating the experiment's progress. Shutui's clone emerges from the incubator. Professor An inquires about Shutui steps out of the chamber, seemingly unaffected. Multiple Shutui clones lie unconscious on the lab floor. Professor An surveys the scene, a room full of failed Shutui clones. A nervous lab assistant questions whether they should continue the experiment. Professor An insists on one final attempt, determined to succeed. The command is given to open the incubator and begin the injection process. Professor An monitors the equipment, searching for any anomalies. A look of triumph crosses her face as she declares success. Shutui sits in a futuristic chair, seemingly unharmed. Professor An asks Shutui how he feels after the procedure. Shutui confirms his success, reporting a positive outcome. Shutui reports a significant increase in spiritual power. Professor An inquires about the acquired abilities from the bee. Shutui reveals he gained 2 new abilities. Professor An is surprised by the 2 acquired abilities. Shutui confirms the abilities, spiritual chain and another. Professor An reacts with shock to the mention of spiritual whip. Professor An confirms Shutui gained spiritual whip. Professor An urges Shutui to test the new ability. Professor An expresses relief and acknowledges the experiment's intensity. Professor An praises Shutui's efficiency and success. Shutui is introduced to Ah Huang, the Institute's exclusive supercomputer that just recorded his entire procedure. Professor An reveals the robot is just a vessel for the AI, whose true core is located off-world. Realizing the incredible resources at his disposal, Shutui feels confident he made the right decision joining the Institute. The AI, Ah Huang, immediately snitches on Shutui, analyzing his vitals and asking the professor to discipline him for his thoughts. Professor An, looking weary but resolute, decides his recovery is complete if he has the energy to bicker with an AI. She volunteers as his training partner, eager to test the combat effectiveness of the newly acquired spiritual whip. Shutui accepts the challenge, materializing the glowing blue whip to begin their sparring session. The scene shifts to a quiet table with a teapot and cups, hinting at a brief respite after the intense training. His attack proves ineffective as Professor An explains her overwhelming mental power negates any non-critical strikes. She critiques his inefficient use of energy, advising him to condense more power to make the whip truly devastating. Professor An calls a halt to the sparring session. She acknowledges Shutui's improved performance, exceeding her expectations. She reveals he's the first to acquire 2 abilities at once, even surpassing the founder. She assigns him a report, eager to analyze his unique genetic miracle. She explains the potential for growth within their lineage based on his results. She emphasizes the difficulty of their entry screening and the rarity of the black crown queen bee. She playfully chides Huang, explaining its current range is about 100 meters for him. She confirms his current training weight is sufficient to control the new weapon. The professor challenges him to combine his new spiritual chain ability with the sword. Fired up by the challenge, Shutui eagerly accepts the chance to test his new power. The sleek, high-tech blade rests in its case, a symbol of his growing strength. He struggles at first to lift the sword with his mind, but Professor An encourages him to keep practicing. She sets his first goal, to control the sword over a distance of 100 meters. With a surge of concentration, he sends the glowing blade flying down a long corridor. Just as the sword returns, Professor An interrupts, instructing him to greet a visitor at the door. With his new sword orbiting him, Shutui heads to the door, curious about the professor's serious visitor. He's greeted by a panicked student holding a dazed and drooling girl. Shutui realizes his spiritual whip is to blame and defensively denies any strange intentions. The scene reveals the trio in a vast training room, the floor cracked from the girl's fall. He tries to explain his inexperience with the new skill, but the student quickly silences him. The visitor smirks, claiming that extreme department students embrace injury as part of their growth. Shutui volunteers to go first, leaving the student to look after his incapacitated companion. He watches in stunned silence as the student tends to the still unresponsive girl. The visitor seems to be trying to reason with the girl, who glares back with intense annoyance. A horrifying realization dawns on Shutui as he figures out the student's manipulative plan. The silver-haired student walks away, seemingly leaving the training area. The blue-haired girl appears disoriented and calls out. A concerned student checks on the blue-haired girl. The silver-haired student pauses, turning back towards the others. He looks surprised, noticing the commotion he caused. The concerned student offers the girl water. The silver-haired student approaches the pair, inquiring about the situation. The girl and the other student share a knowing look. They show the silver-haired student a holographic display. The display reveals a video of a fight. Shui prepares for another sparring match, energy crackling around him. A challenger leaps towards him, ready to strike. A confident observer watches the unfolding action. Shui reacts with surprise to an unexpected move. The challenger presses the attack, wielding a blade. Shui is caught off guard, the attack connecting. He reels from the impact, clearly affected. Medics rush to the scene, prepared for the worst. The victor basks in the cheers of the crowd. The silver-haired student reviews a recording of the fight with others. A student questions the brutality of a recent school battle. Another student explains the dangers of the school's ranking competition. The students discuss a talented exchange student named Azari. Azari's impressive combat record is revealed. The students learn Azari's next exchange stop is their university. A freshman student expresses concern about facing Azari. The students compare Azari's fighting style to a recent incident. The students suspect Azari possesses a rare mental attack ability. They discuss ways to counter a mental attack. A rather unconventional method of defense is suggested. He proposes borrowing someone's ability to improve his mental defenses. He finds this training method challenging. He realizes he needs real combat experience. He agrees to a training proposal. He's asked to use his new ability on the other students. One of the students suggests they continue the training later. He offers assistance to a struggling student. He reflects on the effectiveness of the training. The scene shifts to a view of campus buildings. He walks across the campus grounds. Luo Murong's presence causes a stir among admirers on campus. Someone calls out to Luo Murong, catching his attention. Shui approaches Luo Murong, eager to speak with him. Shui bombards Luo Murong with questions about the books he lent him. Luo Murong interrupts Shui's barrage of questions. Luo Murong explains he's in a hurry. Luo Murong reveals he's attending an ancient martial arts exchange conference. Shui asks to accompany Luo Murong to the conference. Shui learns the conference requires a referral for entry. Shui offers to do chores in exchange for a favor. Luo Murong agrees to Shui's request and leads the way. Shui realizes the ancient martial arts exchange conference is a formal event. Shui offers to clean the dorm for 2 weeks as a favor. Luo Murong considers Shui's offer, seemingly surprised. Luo Murong accepts the deal and tells Shui to follow him. They travel through the futuristic city in a flying car. They arrive at the impressive building hosting the conference. Shui comments on the cost of the flying car, impressed by Luo Murong's wealth. Luo Murong clarifies that his wealth is self-earned, not inherited. Someone commands them to stop, halting their progress. Luo Murong explains the high stakes of their world's evolutionary path. He reveals the lucrative yet dangerous nature of clearing missions. Luo Murong and Shui enter a crowded auditorium. They attend a public class led by a powerful figure in the Jin Ancient Martial Arts Association. A girl notices their arrival, her expression a mix of surprise and admiration. She enthusiastically offers them reserved seats. She explains her efforts to secure the best spots, highlighting her dedication. Luo Murong politely declines the offered seat, creating an awkward moment. He suggests an alternative seating arrangement, sensing the girl's discomfort. Another attendee offers her original seat back, resolving the seating dilemma. Shui is startled by the sudden appearance of a girl. The girl offers Shui a choice of 2 seats. She explains her reasoning for the seating arrangement. She offers her seat to Luo Murong, creating a slightly awkward situation. Shui senses the girl's aggressive intent. Luo Murong questions Shui's refusal of the offered seat. An older gentleman prepares to address the audience. He begins his lecture on genetic ancient martial arts. He presents a book to the audience. Shui surprises Luo Murong with a book of his own. The lecturer discusses energy fields in genetic ancient martial arts. Luo Murong and Shui listen attentively, taking notes. The lecturer explains the concept of qi and its relation to energy fields. The lecturer invites students to try sensing qi. The lecturer explains the importance of individual aptitude for this technique. Shui asks Luo Murong about his training methods. Luo Murong reveals his rapid mastery of qi sensing. Shui is impressed by Luo Murong's natural talent. Luo Murong demonstrates how to activate the qi sensing device. Luo Murong is surprised by Shui's immediate success in sensing qi. The audience observes the demonstration, intrigued by Shui's rapid progress. A student questions Shui's seemingly instant grasp of qi sensing. Another student alerts Luo Murong to the unexpected development. Luo Murong decides to address the situation, stepping away briefly. Luo Murong expresses disbelief at Shui's quick mastery of the technique. They decide to seek verification from a higher authority, Mr. Shen. Mr. Shen, a venerable figure, awaits their arrival.
Luo Murong introduces Shui to Mr. Shen, explaining the situation.
Mr. Shen requests Shu Tui to demonstrate his chi sensing ability. Outside, Luo Murong and the others await the results of the test. Mr. Shen questions Luo Murong about Shu Tui's sudden skill. He praises Shu Tui's ability, impressed by his progress. Mr. Shen invites Shu Tui to join their ancient martial arts association. He learns of Shu Tui's affiliation with Gene Miracle. Mr. Shen proposes a challenge for Shu Tui with a tempting reward. Luo Murong and another student react with surprise to the offer. The Grand Hall of the Genetic Ancient Martial Arts Association is shown. Luo Murong congratulates Shu Tui on his unexpected opportunity. Shu Tui's wrist device vibrates with an incoming communication. A student contacts Shu Tui with urgent news about a challenge. Shu Tui receives a message, a serious look on his face. The message reveals trending topics, and something's caught his eye.